By the way, we have to try and stick to the 10 minutes because rumor has it, James, that a couple of our 10-minute segments were 16 minutes last week. But we're just experimenting. We're figuring stuff out, right?
But you know what we call those people, Rich?
Right. So let's explain what this is all about. So there's one question that salespeople and sales leaders are asking us every week, which is, what are you seeing in the market? And we're out there in the field learning. We're understanding what's happening. We're seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we're taking the best insights, the best lessons, and bringing it to you each week in just 2 topics, 10 minutes each, against the clock.
Welcome to the Field Notes podcast.
Welcome to Field Notes episode 3. James, Bissell, what are you seeing in the market that people might be missing?
What am I seeing? Maybe a lack of experiments or taking experiments seriously to figure out the most optimal way to build pipeline and convert opportunities to close won deals.
Okay, cool. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
James, you are on the clock. Let's go for it.
All right. So, actually, I can tell a story, Rich. We were talking about it a minute ago, but we're for the last 2 years, we've been building this business, and a lot of it's come to us through inbound, just like with you, posting content, being brutally honest with what we see and things like that, and then obviously resonating with our audience. But it only gets you so far. But also we want to drink our own champagne. So we've hired a couple of people recently to help us run a lot of the transformational programs that we run. And Emma's been doing some outbounding, making some cold calls to like CROs, VPs of sales, that kind of stuff. And I'm taking the exact same approach that I did when I was building a couple of sales orgs myself, especially the last one. Went in there, we had 3 buyer personas, and the reps were saying the same thing to everybody. And surprise, surprise, it wasn't resonating, right? Very cookie cutter, templated stuff. So we got around the whiteboard and we said, right, these are our 3 core buyer personas. What do they need, want, desire, fear, etc., etc. Let's do like a day in the life kind of walkthrough. And then we'd build the scripts and then do role plays and training and coaching, and then just aggressive execution, fail fast, outwork the KPIs. How quickly can we figure out this is going to work or not so we can course correct? And we eventually figured it out after a couple of weeks. And then that team went from 6 meetings a month across like 5 reps to 60. I think it was like 45 days or something like that, right? And as a result, they built more pipeline and then they all hit their revenue goal. So doing the exact same thing with Emma. I said to Emma, look, we need to have a clear path to figuring this out. And the first thing we're going to do is, because we're a small team, the quicker we can get to a good enough data set of this does or doesn't work, we can pivot. So we went outbound, started making cold calls into these super senior people. And it's something that we're seeing across the teams that we work with as well, is saying things like, hey, Rich, we've never spoke before, but can I take 30 seconds to tell you why I'm calling you today? Right. And they give them 30 seconds. And then we lead with some kind of pain statement. Yeah, these are the problems that we're seeing. Do they resonate with you? And we did this recently with a marketing tech business that's published the case study, and everything's up and to the right. But we had to test things and then look at the data every week and listen to calls and go, that's just not resonating. Like, we need to tweak something. So I went for a walk down the beach at the weekend, which is where I usually do my best thinking. I was like, maybe we're not leaning into the outcomes fast enough. Maybe we're not because these people are like C-suite, right? The CRO. Hard to get hold of. When you do, you need to anchor on value fast. So anyway, I messaged Emma the other day and said, look, we need to change the way that we start the conversation for this buyer persona. I think this is the challenge. And then, no joke, within 24 hours, she's booked 2 meetings with CROs, like ICP accounts. And then as I'm doing the LinkedIn post to celebrate and obviously give her some recognition to our community, she messaged me saying, are you sitting down? And I was like, yeah. She's like, I've just got a third. Right. But all it takes is you have to go out there and make a shitload of mistakes and be okay with that, and learn from those mistakes and look at the data, lean into it, hypothesize, go again, and eventually you will crack it. But I don't know if you see this, Rich, but so many people are like, oh, I know the playbook. I'll just use the same playbook I used last time and then blame everything else. So that's typically what we see is lack of experiments, lack of taking it serious, looking at the data, working with the teams. You've hired the right people. Let them come up with some of the ideas and get creative, and then just go execute.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. So one of the things is you mentioned something about frustrations, dreams, desires.
Hmm.
And it reminded me of a brilliant video I saw on Instagram a few years ago now. And I remember saving it. It was like a brilliant chat GPT prompt, one of the first like chat GPT prompts I ever saved down. And it was about how to pull out the emotional language that drives buying decisions. And it was,
Hmm.
what are the dreams, desires, frustrations, and fears of people that you're looking to target? Why did you go down that path of pulling out the emotional side rather than maybe more hard business outcomes around percentages and ROI?
So I think we sometimes forget, like, if I'm selling you a car, like I'm selling it to you as an individual, right? I think that when then we think, oh, if I'm selling cars to a business, I'm selling to a business. No, no deal in the history of B2B sales has ever been won without a champion,
Yeah.
right? When I last year, when I decided to write a book, I was like, well, what should I write on? I was like, well, something that's really helped me over the years is get really clear on who in this business is going to drive consensus for me when I'm not in those conversations, right? Maybe I've not earned the right at this point. Maybe that's just their policy that, I'm not allowed in there. It has to be an internal thing. So if we think about it, like the CFO isn't just sat in the back office and there's a conveyor belt in front of them with DocuSigns coming across their desk and they're just going, oh, I'll sign that one. Somebody's internally advocating for you. They're influential. When they talk, people listen. When they suggest things, it gets documented. They have access to power. They're not like a really junior SDR who's trying to get access to the CRO 7 layers down. It's somebody that has regular conversations and they're trusted by that person. But they also have a personal win. If that person gets my deal across the line, they can finish work on time and go play with their kids or go play tennis or go surfing or whatever it is that person genuinely cares about, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
if you don't get intimate with what that person genuinely cares about, their needs, wants, and desires, then you're going to really struggle to identify, build, develop, enable someone to go and do the selling for you.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point
Mm.
because we're all just people. It's like I always laugh at creds decks, with all the big logos that every company in the world can pull up, and then what I don't mind them. It's the way they're presented.
Hmm.
Like just the logo is supposed to impress us. Whereas it could do the opposite. People would go, oh, if you're working for those guys, I don't really want to work with you. We want to be quite different and unique. Oh, you've got a slide with Ferrari on it. That's a completely different thing. Show me what they're doing around pricing. That's really interesting. To quote my good friend Campbell Williams, who told me that example. But there's a person. So why is the story that we tell around the logos and the wins that we've got not? So what's interesting about HP is we were working with John, and John was experiencing this problem, and he tried this, and he was getting really frustrated by this. And what we did for him was this, and now this is what John's reality looks like. How much more
Hmm.
powerful is that?
So
And
much,
so
right?
exactly, but we don't talk that way. We talk about the logo carrying the weight of credibility when people want to go, someone like me.
Well, why do marketing deploy case studies on the website and the sales team only find out when they go to the website or they look in Slack and there's just a message saying, hey, we just rolled out a new case study? One of
Yeah,
the things that we built about 15 months ago when custom GPTs became a thing and we really leaned heavily into the AI stuff is we built a story builder. You can actually download it from our website right now. You just literally dump in the URL to your case study and it uses our storytelling framework. Who's the hero of the story? We
yeah,
want the prospect to feel like they're the hero. They close their eyes and they implicate themselves. They feel
yeah,
themselves in the story, right?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
we talk about the before state. What was life like before working with us?
yeah,
And then what's it like now? And it always has to end with a positive business outcome that person cares about. Yeah,
yeah,
they're either KPI'd, measured, they're OKR, whatever it might be, right? If we can do that, then we've got a better chance of defeating status quo versus Rich, got no budget for this right now, i.e., I see no value in what you're saying. Or, I mean, it's okay work. I mean, it could be better, but it could be a lot worse.
yeah,
There's just no storytelling that's rolled out across the go-to-market team. We just give them a case study, they read it and go, yeah, I'll just email that to people. You've got to bring it to life.
yeah, for sure,
You
for
know?
sure. I think we're probably getting close to a minute left, so I'm going to ask
We
you a
are.
question. So, question is, let's make it real for people. What were you
Mm.
missing? So if you think about what was not working for you, that after you
Mhm.
applied this sort of first principles thinking, and then suddenly, you got 3 opportunities, what were you missing in that approach that then you fixed with the change?
So words sell, right? Like really good people that write really good copy, they're continuously looking at hooking you, right? So the words really matter. And it takes time to get the words right, especially when you're doing it based on your internal opinions. Like when I was building Staff Circle, I did these 6 lunch and learns where I brought in the HR director for customers and prospects and said, look, we love working with you, but my team, we've never, worked with HR people before. So could you just give us an overview of what it's like to be in HR? And I remember the first person, she turned up, she had this deck, she presented the deck, she built a deck for us. And at the beginning of the deck, she said, HR people want to be transformational, but they're stuck being transactional. They can't see the color of their desk covered with paperwork. And I was like, wow, like we're talking about automating things and making things easier. But the way that she's just communicated that to us is such an effective way to do it. So guess what we did? We just started cold calling people and outbounding people saying, look, if you're anything like A, B, and C, you're probably trying to be transformational, trying to build a reputation and a career, but you're stuck pushing papers around. And what we do, so root cause and the goal, what we do is X, Y, and Z. We'd love to tell you how we can drive these outcomes. When are you available? Surprise, surprise. We grew that business, the ARR 1,000% in 12 months when people were going out of business during COVID. So it's about like not trying to like get it to 100%. It's like, right, this is good to ship. Let's go ship this. And then let's just study the data and let's just get everyone to go get gritty, go do it a bunch of times and let's see what's sticking and what isn't, and then fix the stuff that isn't. And you have to just do it over and over again.
Yeah. One last quick question.
Yeah.
The CRO change that you did based on that persona, what's the emotion you're tapping into there?
So we're just trying to anchor on something that they're probably really nervous about speaking to the board. Yeah. So when we're running like a medic training or like a discovery training, people say, when should I stop running discovery? And it's like, well, when you get to a metric or a point where the CRO, the CFO, the VP of engineering is outside the board meeting and their hands are sweating because they're like, shit, I need to go in and I'm going to have to tell them that it's not even the same, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And you get to that point, then you're onto something. Then you need to obviously do root cause analysis and then prescribe, a solution. So that would be that's what we kind of looked at, is like, what do they not want to go into the board meeting and talk about again? What could cost them their job?
Boom. I think that was really close to 10 minutes there.
We were close. Do you know what? I'm gonna be honest to everyone listening as well. I forgot to press start. So luckily the recording software's got a recording timer in the top left corner. So I was going, how long did we speak for at the beginning? So
yeah, exactly. Some people are like trying to time a run and they're like, damn it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was awesome. Loved it.
All right, you're up then, Rich. What are you seeing in the market at the moment?
Yeah, so it's something I've been seeing for a while. I've been observing for a while, and I don't see many people getting this right, but the best people do. And it's about whether in recruitment you're making people feel screened and vetted or wanted. That's what I want to talk about.
Another one.
All right, Rich, you're on the clock. You ready?
Yeah, ready.
Let's go.
So I'll tell you, so here's the thing that I see. If you look at most recruitment processes, the first stage in most recruitment processes is what?
Well, it depends on the business structure, but like in most, after you've kind of submitted the CV, it's get on a call with someone in HR and vet the hell out of you, ask you a million questions that they probably don't know the answers to, and they're just putting it into a spreadsheet somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And what level of HR is it? Is it the chief people officer?
I think unless you are applying for the chief revenue officer role, I think it's probably like a HR business partner. Very, very kind of new in role, of very junior in the org, probably.
And I think most of the CROs listening to this would say, actually, no, most of the time that we're just speaking to a talent acquisition specialist. And there's nothing wrong with talent acquisition specialists, but it's often their first job. Often they want to be in HR. They want to work on the transformation projects, and recruitment's like the first level of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and the process is often, the larger you go in businesses, more documented, more of a box tick, more here's the exact questions you need to ask, here's the way you can ask them, because we want to be able to measure everyone against the same thing. And we do that across all roles, whether someone's applying for a financial role, an engineering role, or a CRO role. it's the same questions, which is wild. So it's a massive frustration that I've heard. We're about 2 years ago, I was in a pavilion on the bench session, and I was hearing all of these chief marketing officers, chief revenue officers, chief customer success officers, all talking about how incredibly frustrated they were with job search and going through the process as a candidate. And it was amazing to hear the stories, because they were all just going, I just literally just feel like I can't even get progress. If I speak to a business, most of the time we won't even hear back if I apply for a job. If I do speak to them, I'll speak to them. It's a really frustrating conversation where they don't have the context of the role. So I try and do my discovery, and I just don't even have time to ask questions because I'm just asking these questions. And then I probably don't hear back again. And it's like, so people just get put off that thing, but it happens at all levels inside businesses. And so what I realized is, when I used to interview people when I was a sales leader, and it was my favorite thing to do, my absolute number one favorite activity to do of all time was trying to spot that amazing talent that's coming through the door, maybe through our recruitment agencies, maybe through our internal team. But I loved that first call. And I had this way of asking questions. And I know we teased on that on a podcast that we did together recently, or a while ago, that we recut. And I had these very clever questions and these wonderful questions that would reveal loads of stuff about the person. What I've done recently is flipped it completely. So the way I start interviews now is I say, this is all about alignment. So I'm not going to screen and vet you, and I'm not going to pitch you and hope it sticks. I want to use this as an opportunity to align with what you're looking for. See how closely this matches to the type of challenge that excites you. We can talk about where your experience might match really well and what gaps there might be, which I'm sure there will be. And if by the end of this conversation it's not a fit, it's not a match, then we can stay connected for an even better role, because I'll have understood what you're looking for. So I'm flipping it completely. And the amount of times that people tell me that was really refreshing, I never get the chance to ask my questions. Often they're just stitched at the end if we have time left. And I was thinking, why don't more people do that? And I know that it means that the conversation could go in any direction. So you kind of give up control, but you want people talking. And most importantly, particularly if we're talking about sales roles, more commonly, they're in the revenue organization, their ability to ask good questions and demonstrate curiosity are much bigger factors than how well they might answer a situational question about, tell me about a time when you found yourself under target and what you did differently about it. Or why do you want my job? And what do you know about the business? Which a lot of people put as the first questions. And I'm just thinking,
which anyone can answer, and no one can confirm and rubber stamp it and say that's legit, unless you're trying to back channel, right? Which you're not going to do in the beginning.
It's wild. So I think that what's happening in the market is people are incredibly frustrated on both sides. Revenue leaders are frustrated that they've got open seats that they've had open for a number of months that they can't fill, with talent teams being frustrated because they've got 30 roles to recruit for across all different types of roles, with all different hiring managers putting loads of pressure on them for updates. And then you've got candidates being totally frustrated that when they go onto a call, they get talked at, asked really generic questions, and not listened to and not given the chance to go and do discovery. So something has to change. And I think for me, it's about two things. One is, are you using it for alignment? Because unless that person is like doing their own discovery and showing that capability, you're really missing the opportunity for them to go and find out the things that they would want to find out, to know if it's a good opportunity for them. And then there's one other thing that I want to talk about, which is making people feel wanted. So here's a crazy thing. So my old CEO, who's a bit of a hero of mine, he changed so much of my thought process when I started working with him. He said, if I like someone, I want to get them in as quickly as possible. And I want to make sure that they know that I want them. And the world that I came from is we played more, it wasn't we were playing games, but we were trying to, as much as possible, control the psychology to affect the level of desire and priming and differentiation in the market as much as we could, which worked really well. But I think for a certain level of role, maybe up to like inside sales type rep, above that, you lose it. Because at the top level, all people want to do is align. So what his approach was as soon as I find someone that's good, I'm going to be talking to them about how we want them, how we see it's a fit, how we want them to meet more people so they feel comfortable. and building a relationship with people so that they went, oh, I can see that it'll be a really great place to work here because I'm actually getting full access. I'm feeling like I'm desired. And probably they're coming away from an environment where they don't feel any of those sorts of emotional pulls, which is why they're talking to you in the first place. So I think that the real flip side is, rather than screening and vetting, why are we not, once we find someone that's really good, doing everything we can to make sure that they feel wanted? Not that we're desperate, but that they know we would love to work with you because we think you're highly valuable. By the way, it's going to be really tough. Here are the challenges. Here's the expectations. But we think you're the kind of person that can rise to the challenge. And if you make people feel like that, I guarantee they'll come in with a way better perception of your business and level of desire than if you try and get them to pass your 6 recruitment gates, fight to win a place in your business, and then potentially get the job. When realistically, the best people are talking to 5 other companies. And if you're not creating that emotional connection, all they're going to do is compare you against the salary of the other business. And that's my rant over, James. What would you like to know?
I have a question, but just before we jump into that, it's so true, right? And I never got why people try and make you feel like not valued, but like they try and have this big like barrier up as if they're not interested in you on an interview. I never really understood that.
Yeah,
I just don't get it, because you might actually really like me. You might think I'm perfect for the role, but you're just being an absolute D, right? And I might go, oh, I don't think Rich likes me. So there's an offer over here. Maybe I'll just take that, and they'll get the deal off the street. And then you're like, we lost a good one there because I was being an idiot.
Yeah, we've had it. We've had it all the time.
Necessary. I bet you have. I bet you had it loads.
So many. We hear it all the time about people saying, oh, we really like that person. I'm like, you never told them.
Yeah,
you never told them, it's like what, but again, it's like why do we make recruitment so different than sales? Like if a customer came in and what they were looking for is exactly what you had to offer, would you be like, yeah, I need to take you through another 3 stages here, and you won't really know if we can answer your, like, be the right solution for you? Be like, yeah, you're a great customer, I'd really love to work with you, here's why. Let me understand more. I really want to make sure it's a good fit. And if it's not, then I'll tell you that it's not, and we can move on, like you say, professionally exit. But we don't do that in recruitment. We put on poker face and we play the role. And I just think it's horrendous. I always ask candidates after they've gone through an interview, how did it go? What were your feelings about the interview? How would you score it out of 10? And sometimes they go, I just don't know. Yeah. And I'm going, obviously I wasn't in it, so I'm like going, did you ask the right questions? But they go, the person was super hard to read, and I'm like, okay, well, I've just identified a massive thing that we can probably try and help someone with here. Because if you're being hard to read in recruitment, that's not good. You should either tell people directly, I'm just not seeing a fit, but I really appreciate your time. If there's someone I could point you in the direction of to help, I will. Just be clear. And if they're great, tell them that you want them. Let's stop playing games with people. It's such an important point of their life and such a big decision.
I'd love to understand what you would prescribe as a as a better way, because I do also kind of resonate with them, Rich, because I was that VP once when I got promoted, and it was also like the worst time because it was like 3 months into the pandemic. So like it was, here's the job, now go figure it out when everyone else is struggling. But no one sat me down and said, hey, this is how you write a job description. This is how you build the characteristics, and you score those people, and this is how you recruit, and you give feedback on the interview, and then you onboard, and blah, blah, blah. No one did that. I learned the hard way and probably lost loads of really good talent as a result. So like because we're obviously famous, right? So for the 30 million people listening to our podcast, we've really made it.
Jeff down the beach with his dog.
Yeah, when I say 30 million, I mean 3. I just added a couple of zeros. For the 3 people that are listening and they may be experiencing this, like, what would you recommend that they do so that they're not like losing good talent because the talent acquisition specialist is just opening up a spreadsheet and just rapid firing questions and then getting off the call?
I'm going to talk about this more in the next segment, but it's you should have a way of selling up front. So if they can't, from their own research, get excited about your opportunity, because you create a level of clarity around what you do, why you're good, what the culture looks like inside your business. So they're already coming in going, oh, this looks like a great company with a great solution. They're really helping their customers. If you're not doing that up front, so they're just like having to try and decipher your really complicated website with no pictures and videos of your staff and no customer testimonials and case studies, then that's the first thing to fix. Because if you can just get that part right, so they're coming in excited. If you're not, you don't have the brand pull of Nike or someone, for example, that it's like people's dream to work at your company, like Cursor or Lovable, whatever. You're a scrappy little startup with a small budget. You have to go and like put your best foot forward in the market. And maybe there's some stuff that you send out to people so they get excited about that before the first call. And so absolutely, I think there's an element of selling first. And selling doesn't mean like convincing people that you're the best thing. It's transparently sharing what's great about you.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you've done that and you've given people a chance to align, absolutely flip the psychology and make it a competitive process because you want the best people. But unless you start with we want to get you excited and be able to make a really educated decision if there's something you want to invest your time into, and we jump straight into qualifying and vetting and screening, I think you're missing the mark completely.
Yeah, I agree. I know we're pretty much on time, but there's a little kind of demo tip that I used to give AEs, and this is like sounds like it could ring true for maybe some sales leaders, Rich. It's called DTs, demo teasers. You only go to the cinema when the trailer's really good.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're like, that'll be on Netflix in a year, I'll watch it then, right?
Yeah.
So what I say with the AEs, if you want to get like more people to rock up to your demos and educated, send them a little teaser, like a cliffhanger, 60-second video on how you solve the problem that they want to come and see more. And it's the same here when you're hiring, right? Like at my last business, we were an employer branding tool, so like a video crowdsourcing tool.
Yeah.
But I would do it. I would crowdsource video testimonials from my AEs and SDRs, package that up into a 60-second video, and I would send it to them before the first interview, which was with me, by the way, as a VP, not someone in HR, because I want them to turn up inspired and fired up. Because I'm not going to offer them the same money that Salesforce or MongoDB are. So I need to win them through the opportunity and everything else, not through the salary. So I don't know if that is aligning with what you're talking about there.
1,000%. And do you know what percentage of businesses do that, James?
Probably very few, but let me know.
I would say it's in the 99.9% don't.
Yes.
So it's just like literally flipping the interview and getting people to talk about what they want to know first and giving them the chance to ask questions. Just that difference, I get amazing feedback on. If a business sends out, here's some stuff about our company and why we're different, and some people from the business talking about the business, that's not forced to be created and they're on video with like a gun to their head. People love it, absolutely love it. So I think it's a brilliant idea. Beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love the noises.
You actually ran over, but that was my fault because I then went into demo teasers. So apologies if anyone's listening. Don't hate on Rich. It's my fault.
What the cluck, man. What the cluck.
Amazing.
Everyone else.
That's a great episode.
It was a great episode. Everyone else will see you on the next episode.